What's going on, everyone, and welcome to the program. It's everyone's favorite, biggest little soccer podcast on the internet at Stateside Footy. Man, oh man, oh man. This is going to be fun tonight. You know, obviously, we're going to be talking about strikers. We're going to be ranking the USMNT striker pool tonight. There's also a few different ones thrown in there as well, too. Wingers that could potentially be used as strikers as well too. So, before we get into it, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. But also, if you want to be a part of tonight's show, go ahead and drop it into the comments. I know there's going to be some people who disagree with what I think, and that's great. We can always have that conversation, and I'm always looking forward to it. Before we get into it, hit that like and subscribe button. As I just said, go ahead and share this as well too. We're going to have some fun tonight, so let's go ahead and get right to it, because I think, what they say, don't bury the lead. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first name I'm going to bring up here is Jordan Pefok, and I think, actually, hold on. Before we do that, let's just go ahead and explain the tiers that we have tonight. So we have the top tier, national team starter. These are going to be the players who can step right in for Mauricio Pochettino and start. We also have rotational player. Now, rotational players coming off the bench, but it also could mean a starter potentially on a Gold Cup or Nations League, because that's actually tiers 3 and 4. Nation League and then Gold Cup. And then finally, we have January camp, guys who were probably just being brought in to have a look and potentially see exactly how that might how Mauricio Pochettino might look at him, just if you wanted to bring him in and have a look. So let's go ahead and get started. And the first name I'm going to drop is Jordan Pefok, and I think Jordan's going to be right there, and he's going to be in the January camp list. And of course, for those who don't know, Jordan Pefok obviously plays for Union Berlin in the Bundesliga. Now, since he's been in the Bundesliga, he's only made 38 starts. And now that is with 3 years at Union Berlin. He spent 1 year at Borussia Mönchengladbach. But in those 38 starts, he's had 9 goals total and 17 GA, goals and assists. So, since he's been in the Bundesliga, he hasn't been a regular starter. Recently, I think he had an assist a couple starts ago. But the biggest issue is Jordan Pefok. Two things. Number one, hasn't necessarily been a regular starter. That's number one. But also number two, under Greg Berhalter, as a guy who came in as a dual national, didn't really hasn't really had a lot of opportunity with the national team. But that being said, I would like to think that turn 2025, when it comes to the January camp, he would probably be one of those guys who would be in the January camp as a means for Mauricio Pochettino to see exactly what he looks like as far as technical ability, but also to see if he's going to be able to impress. So that's where I have Jordan Pefok. The next name on this list is going to be Brandon Vazquez, and I think I'm going to have him right there as well too. Brandon is a guy who needs an opportunity. Playing down in Monterrey, for the last couple of years, he's only made 13 starts, 9 goals, 13 GA. And the biggest thing, again, especially considering I think we only have 10 camps left. He's a dude who should get a look. He should get a look. But again, we're in a position where we're kind of running out of time. I happen to like Brandon Vazquez, and I also think that he can bring an add in different dimension. But it is what it is. I don't necessarily think that he's going to get anything more than a look. As far as, it all depends, right? Like, it's going to be that type of situation where if somebody gets injured and they need to bring in somebody, that might be for a series of friendlies, perhaps. But anything more than that, I just don't see that. I don't see that going down. The next name on this list, Jesus Ferreira. And I'm going to put him right in that tier right there, which is going to be Gold Cup. Under Greg Berhalter, Jesus Ferreira had a nice cup of coffee and had some decent moments. But I think at this stage, as Mauricio Pochettino is going to essentially find his core, he's going to find it quickly. The opportunities for Jesus Ferreira are going to be far and few in between. I would probably go so far as to say that in these next 10 windows, as we get closer to the 2026 World Cup, I would probably think that Jesus Ferreira most likely won't be called in. And that's no disrespect to Jesus Ferreira, who, by the way, obviously the FC Dallas striker, in his last couple of years, he's made 39 starts, 17 goals, 24 GNA. So, I mean, you'd like to see those numbers, be a little bit better. Hasn't exactly had the greatest year in 2024 with FC Dallas, and so a lot of that also plays into it. And I don't think he's anything more than just a Gold Cup level striker with the U.S. men's national team. The next name on this list is going to be Haji Wright. Now, Haji Wright is a striker by trade, but plays on the wing with Coventry. And in the context of the U.S. men's national team, he has also been a winger. Haji Wright, 36 starts over the last couple of years, 19 goals, 25 GNA. So he has the ability to do that. Most of those numbers, again, come off the wing. And I would probably think that in a context of if somebody is injured or if Mauricio Pochettino likes his hold-up play, he could possibly see it. It's going to be an issue of speed, and it's also going to be an issue of tactical awareness for Haji Wright. The last time we saw him against Canada, he was playing on the wing, and he wasn't really all that fantastic, to be honest. Quite honestly, he was shit. I got a little upset, to be honest with you, that he got called in because I didn't necessarily think that he earned it. I thought a guy like Paxton Aronson made far too much sense. But that being said, in a pinch, you could possibly see it. You can possibly see him being played as a striker. But I think in this context, he's more going to be on the wing. And that's why I have him in that rotational spot, because I tend to think that if all things are equal, I would probably think that Mauricio Pochettino is going to probably play Timmy Weah on the right and Christian on the left, which means Haji Wright is going to be coming off the bench as a winger, not necessarily a striker. So it is what it is. The next name on this list is going to be Tim Weah. And I'm going to have him up there all the way at the top because I do think that he's a starter for the national team. Now, the question is it going to be the wing or is it going to be at the 9? Now, here's the interesting thing, because at his club Juventus, they have flirted with using him as a 9 because he's got the pace, because he has the ability to attack the channels and also make runs to the post. You can understand why Juventus likes him that way. He's made 13. The problem with Weah, he's been dealing with injuries over the course of the last couple of years, but he's only made 13 starts, and he's only scored 1 goal in those starts. And also provided assists. So he's got 1 goal, 2 GA. And that's from the context of what you want to see. Tim Weah is just not putting up numbers, plain and simple. When he comes in, when he starts, doesn't put up the numbers. But that being said, in the context of the national team, 100% he's a starter. But that being said, it's going to be more on the wing, not necessarily as a striker, but it is what it is. Turning to the next name on this list, I got Jordan Morris. And I'm going to put Jordan right here, right at the Nations League level, because I do believe that's the highest level for the Seattle Sounders striker. I think his days as a winger are far behind him, because in the context of what he does at the club level, Jordan is a flat out 9. And his hold-up play is good enough for Major League Soccer. I don't necessarily think, when it comes to the national team, I don't know if Jordan's going to get called in between now and 2026. And again, it's like Brandon Vasquez and Jordan Pefok. It's going to be in case of emergency and you're dealing with injuries. But I think that's the level that Jordan's at right now, which is like, you might bring him for a Nations League, but they have better options. Jordan, by the way, 53 starts over the last couple seasons, 24 goals scored for the Seattle Sounders, 28 GA. So he's doing his job. And he's putting the ball in the back of the net, and that's the most important thing. And I'll say this again, and I've said this until I'm blue in the face. It does not matter where you play, as long as you're playing. That is the most important thing. And in Major League Soccer, I understand, man, the defenses are not as good as you're going to find overseas, 100%. But there is something to playing and also being in form. And right now, in the context of what the Sounders are going through, the fact that there's only two players that are providing the scoring for the Sounders. And that's Albert Rusnik and Jordan Morris. And Jordan has been doing it at a high level now. He's in his prime. Now, whether or not that's going to translate to a national team call-up, I'm going to lean no. But that being said, I think Jordan could fill in and probably make a reasonable showing up as a number 9. Turning to the next guy on this list, it's going to be Ricardo Pepi, and I'm going to have him right there as a rotational striker. And I don't think that Ricardo Pepi can be a starting 9 for the U.S. men's national team. I just don't see it. In the context of his club at PSV, he's only made 3 starts in the last 2 years. 3. Now, a lot of that is because he's playing behind Luke de Jong, who's the captain there at PSV. And in those 3 starts over the course of the last couple of years, he's managed to score 11 goals and 13 GA. So, I mean, he's made the most of what little opportunity that he's had, which is nice, which is what you want to see. But that being said, name me something that Ricardo Pepi does that Ballo or Sargent can't do. Now, that's exactly right. Now, the thing about this was, I think it was his last start for PSV. He did start and he ended up scoring a brace. So good for him. He made the most of his start. That's fantastic. You're doing it in the Eredivisie. And I love the Eredivisie, but it's not the championship. It's not Ligue 1. It's not the second Bundesliga. It's solid though, but I think it's like one step above Major League Soccer. The only difference is some teams play a little bit better defense, but for the most part, it is what it is. But Ricardo Pepi's not even starting. It's to the point where I think Pepi needs to make a move out of PSV and get himself into a situation where he's going to be starting games, so you can actually get that development going. Because if there's a situation where he goes to a team and he starts making starts and he starts doing it, there is a way that Pepe can actually work his way into that rotation of potential starters with the national team. Turning our attention to this guy right here, Flo Balogun. Of course, he's up there as the starter. And it makes a lot of sense because he's right now the U.S. number 1 at the 9. Here's the crazy thing. I don't necessarily know if Balogun fits. That's my only problem. Like, I understand the high ceiling and I understand he's talented, but does he fit the style of how Mauricio Pochettino likes his strikers to play? I say no. Like in a 2-striker system where he's playing the Clint Dempsey role as he's playing the false 9, where he's allowed to roam and he's allowed to make runs to each post, attack channels. He's probably going to be incredibly goal dangerous. But the problem is he Mauricio Pochettino likes to use strikers that are more of a hold up striker, more of that target 9, and he's just not that guy. Now that doesn't mean that Balogun is a terrible player, not even remotely close. He's very good, but there's a couple problems. The first one is his form. 3 years ago, when he was with Stade Reims in Ligue 1, he made 34 starts that year, scored 21 goals, and had 23 GA. That was that season is what made him get the permanent move to Monaco, because he was a part of the Arsenal loan army. And since he's been in Monaco, okay, he started 23 times, 9 goals, 14 GA, and that's through a full year, and of course the portion of this early season. And in this early season, he got benched one time. Now, okay, the last two matches he's played in, he scored, so that's actually a nice sign of potential confidence and also being able to get yourself back into form. And the timing couldn't be better because obviously we're coming into this window. Now, the question is can he carry that over to the national team? Because outside of that goal against Panama in the Copa America, has he lived up to expectations for the national team? And the answer is no. That's the truth. Flo Balogun is a nice player. He's got incredible upside, but right now he's not giving nearly as much to the national team because every time he's come into the national team, he hasn't been in form. The last guy on this list is going to be Josh Sargent, and of course I got Josh up there as well too. And Josh Sargent, obviously the Norwich guy. I absolutely love Josh, and I think Josh is now getting to the point where he's coming into his prime. He's made 87 total starts for Norwich in the 4 years he's been there, scored 34 goals, and he's had 42 GA. Quite simply, he is probably the best striker at the club level for the U.S. men's national team as far as production goes. He's been in form for quite a long time, and of course the knock is like he can't stay healthy, and there has been points in the course of the last couple of years where that has been true, but lately he's been healthy. He's been healthy as fuck, and he's been on fire. Last match he had two assists in a match where Norwich scored 4. The last international break, he didn't even suit for the second game for whatever reason. They said that he may have picked up a knock on the ankle, but 3 days later he was starting for Norwich and played the entire 90. The thing about Josh Sargent is that he completely fits the model of how Mauricio Pochettino likes his strikers to play. He's doing it in Norwich. He'll come back and make a touch. He'll come back to midfield, make a touch, and then make his secondary run into the box. And when he's in the box, he'll drop deep. He's a distributing 9, almost in the style of the way Harry Kane played for Tottenham. Now, of course, he's not Harry Kane, and I don't think anybody is going to mistake him. I don't. He's not that at all. But in a Maurizio Pochettino attack, just the way that he sets up. Josh is, I have a feeling that Josh is going to take the reins. And to be honest with you, I want him to start against Panama. If Josh starts against Panama and he has himself a game, now whether that's scoring a goal or whether he's helping setting up a goal, that type of rhythm is only going to suit Josh. And that's the thing. It's like, we saw under Mikey Varis, they started, Flo Balogun against Canada as a means to get his rhythm going, to give him some confidence. It just didn't work out. Well, this could be an opportunity, to allow Josh to get on the field and allow him to, use the form of what we've seen for him so far in Norwich and allow him to be public. Allow him to be, allow him to perform. I beg your pardon. So those are my power rankings right now for the U.S. men's national team. Let me know how you feel about the striker pool. Is there any names that you think that I left off? What do you think about how I have these ranked? Go ahead and let me know. Drop a comment into the comment section. I said it a couple days ago on the video when Mauricio Pochettino dropped his first roster. I wasn't a big fan of it in the context of it was really the same names that we've grown accustomed to. And it's important, right? It's important for the national team coach, in this case Mauricio Pochettino, to pick a squad that is going to represent this country in a means where these players are not going to take it for granted. Because I think we saw that under Mikey Varis. Now, a few things to mention, though, was, these players didn't respect Varis. And so when they came in, it was much ado about nothing, and that performance largely mirrored it. It looked like a group of players who didn't want to be there. And that attitude, it lets you know what these players are about. And so from the context of this one, there were certain guys that I just didn't want to see. And it doesn't mean that I don't want them off the national team. That's not what I'm saying at all. But for specific windows, to leave them back, sure. In order to bring in different guys, yeah. I didn't want to see Ricardo Pepi this time. I'm used to the fact that Balogun's probably going to be there and Sargent's going to be there, but in the context of Ricardo Pepi, what has he done this year? The dude doesn't start. It made no sense. I didn't, I would much rather see a dude like Paxton Aaronson. 100%. Goalkeeper wise, the idea of Matt Turner and Ethan Horvath made absolutely no sense. I think Mauricio Pochettino did go out publicly and say that, he was leaning more on the national team for this one because he hadn't necessarily taken a look at all the guys. So we got a lot of it. The name that I actually liked a lot was Marlon Fossey. I think he earned it. But, without Chris Richards, our center back pool is what it is. I actually thought that the omissions to me were Gaga, Slonina in goal, and Paxton Aaronson up top. Outside of that, it was what it was, man. So I don't know, man. You guys let me know. Tell me about the roster. Let me know how you feel about it. Let me know how you feel about these striker rankings. It's been fun, man. Join me tomorrow as we welcome Tyler Fisher to the program. We're going to be talking a little bit about the Columbus Crew. He's a writer for Massive Report, which does a phenomenal job on the Columbus Crew, because we're going to be talking a little bit about Pucho Hernandez. We're going to be talking about the Crew, and I'm also curious about how he feels about Miami not only winning the Supporter Shield, but also getting the invite to the Club World Cup based on, I don't know, what kind of merit. So let me know. Join me tomorrow. That's going to be a fun show, but also let me know how you feel, man. You guys take care. Good night.